It's my pleasure to have on the line with me Robin Taubenfeld. She is a campaigner for Friends of the Earth in Brisbane and a spokesperson for the Brisbane Community Action Network. Thanks very much for joining us, Robin.
Thanks for having me today.
So to start off with, I always like to hear from activists like yourself how you got to be involved in this particular issue, and I guess just a little bit of your history, if you don't mind.
My history, well, I'm originally was born in the United States, and I migrated to Australia for love, and I've stayed here I decided to stay here for love of the land, as corny as that may seem. I went up to Jabiluka, 1998, and there's a call by the Mirarr people to help defend their land against uranium mining, and I've been working on anti-nuclear, anti-uranium, anti-food irradiation, nuclear and peace-related issues ever since. And last year it became apparent that there was going to be some need for community responses to the G20 Leaders Summit that was proposed or planned for Brisbane and the leaders' presence here in our region. And we started having open community meetings, discussions about what way it would be useful and positive to respond. And out of that grew the Brisbane Community Action Network, which is really a network. It's not an organization. It is a network of individuals and people from organizations who all agree that we need to address the ecological destruction and the social disparity that the G20 systems perpetuate, and need to support First Nations calls for action and broader community calls for action for decolonization, for global responses, positive responses to climate change, and for a peaceful and more just world.
Beautiful. It looks like it's a really fantastic gathering of groups and concerned individuals. Talk to us, I guess, about what you guys have planned to protest or to vision, I guess, another world as you seem to be pitching it. It seems like there's a real emphasis on trying to make this a real positive response or alternative to, I guess, the madness that is the official happening.
Yes, well, as people, even in Western Australia, know, there has been a very concerted methodological attempt to portray any community in response or concern about what's happening in the G20 meeting as potentially violent, any concern about what's going on here as a threat to the community, rather as part of our vibrant democracy. And there's been an increased militarization of our police service here. They've been given increased powers. They've been given surveillance centers in both Brisbane and Cairns. And we're expecting 6,000 police on the ground any day here in Brisbane in the lead up and during and beyond the G20. And we're seeing a vast encroachment of our civil liberties and local, state, and federal laws enacted to curtail our right to assemble. And despite that, we know that, or because of that, we know that we need to respond. We can't sit here idly by and say, oh, that's okay, where our civil liberties are threatened, and so we're not going to do anything about the system that is really privileging the few and creating poverty and further impoverishing people around the world. And we've been talking to people in Brazil and people in India and people in Turkey and people around the world who are directly impacted. Billions of people are impacted by the decisions that are made in this the G20 leaders meeting and their financial leaders meeting, which is probably where most of the key decisions are made. And it's not okay to do nothing, that we felt we needed to respond. We don't believe that it's fair or just the media continuously portraying any response as protest. We believe that there's valid reason for a community response, and we've seen over the last few months a broad array of types of community responses coming out of the Brisbane and local and international communities. So not only from BrisCAN, but BrisCAN sort of working as communication hubs as well. And we've seen that there's going to be a large religious response to the Australian religious response to climate change. There's going to be prayer vigils. There's a week of First Nations action, reclaiming, asserting sovereignty over Musgrave Park, and having corroboree, having forums, having sessions, talking circles and yarning circles, a First Nations conference, and we're hosting the Visioning Another World visions for a more positive, progressive society. And we believe that the community already has the answer to the things that actually the G20 is trying to avoid, which are strong, positive responses to climate, ecological, and economical justice. There's many ways to develop a financial system that could be more equitable. There's things not addressed by the G20 at all, because the G20 is actually based on militarization and colonization and the expansion of global capitalism and corporate control of decision-making from our rights as well to what we eat. And so we know there's alternatives. We believe that people have the answers, and so we believe this is an opportunity to get together and talk about real solutions to real problems locally and globally, and to represent Brisbane, and also to come up with some statements and solutions that we pass on to the next G20 community, which will be Turkey for next year.
You're certainly right. All we're seeing in our media over here is, of course, the ridiculous police beat up, reminiscent, of course, of the CHOGM meetings here, the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting here in 2011, where the police were granted extraordinary powers and much fear really portrayed through the media here. And yes, as I say, we're getting that echoes of the G20 from there. That's all we're hearing apart from that, and of course the build-up chest beating between Putin and Abbott. But it's beautiful to see this alternative going ahead, and of course in terms of, I guess, some key issues, of course we have such huge wealth disparity, don't we, in this country and around the world, with in June Oxfam Australia releasing figures showing that 9 individuals have a net worth equivalent to the total 4.5 million people, the bottom 20% of income workers. I mean, that's incredibly stark figures, and of course that's echoed all around the world, and the G20 puts all this into place, doesn't it?
Certainly, and we know that they're not really offering solutions, and they don't even really care about the solutions that are coming out of civil society. For example, there was the sanctioned civil society meeting, the C20 meeting, which took place in June this year. All reports say that the community was obviously very concerned about climate change as well as inclusiveness in the economy, and these are messages that the G20 is really disregarding. At least the G20 under Abbott's leadership is disregarding. And we also see recently they've announced that they're only allowing 4 civil society community organization passes into the G20 meeting this year, and so actually excluding the civil society members that have regularly attended, only really as spectators, but not even, they're closing the doors even on the groups that they allegedly sanction, which is, it's good for us because it's showing really the contradictions in their system, and it's feeding more people into a real grassroots community response. So we've welcomed the community, the civil society participants, the C20 participants to join us in the Peoples Summit, and we're very privileged and honored to have the head of Oxfam International, Winnie Bianima, who's the head of Oxfam International, Sharon Burrow, the secretary of the International Trade Union Confederation, Lex Maltzer, the co-chairman of the National Indigenous Congress, and other people joining in with the People's Summit to actually broaden our scope as a grassroots movement, because I think we realize that while some of us may be on the fringe of grassroots activism. We actually need a diversity of tactics, meaning we need to work with each other, the large organizations, the small organizations, and we need to collaborate and find our. And Oxfam put out that very important report, and the report informs our action. And so the fact that we can work together on positive statements and positive sessions where people are invited, where it's all open, it's a free event, people are welcome to input, and people are welcome to propose their own sessions, is really something positive that our community can do. And in the last few weeks, we've seen a great response, and the momentum is growing. We've only got a few weeks to go till the G20 leaders arrive here, and we're feeling positive. And while every day we are facing the media, in particular the Courier Mail and certain media, Murdoch media, presenting pictures of riot police, we know that the message of positivity is actually getting out there. And today's media talking about, there's a headline saying 21 groups, they range from saying 20 to 90 groups, but 21 angry groups. But in the actual article, the police commissioner is noted as saying that they have not identified any potential violence. And so, the message is a constant beat up. The reality is different. Even the police know it's different, not that they're not using it to their advantage. We're certainly concerned about the erosion of civil liberties, and also, as you may have experienced there with Chogam, the long-lasting impacts on our community. The fact that many laws have been put in place, and police have new technology and increased powers and surveillance powers and weaponry long after the G20 will leave, these are impacts that will last in our community and certainly be affecting the most marginalized people in our community. And so, it's a big lesson for us to learn, awareness raiser, how we can look more into how we can support broader layers of our community and learn more about each other. So see this as an opportunity for growth of a progressive movement in our community and hopefully in Australia. And we hope you'll all come. It's very far. I propose if you can't come, which is very far from WA, do some action in your own community and do something that's not what the G20 is about. Do something, have a Food Not Bombs, or have a free feed in your community, or share a meal with your neighbor, or eat some eggs. Eggs are actually a prohibited item in Brisbane from November 8th through November 17th, unless they're for a lawful excuse. And of course, eating will be a lawful thing to do. So it's ridiculous that you will have to assert the lawfulness of your eating your omelet. But, have an egg breakfast, have a can of tomatoes with it, and share a meal with your neighbor, and look for the positive, the things that we as community members can do to counter the system of greed that the G20 perpetuates.
Beautiful, Robin. Thank you so much. And yes, much to be concerned about, obviously, but yeah, much to rejoice there. So thanks very much for that.
Thanks for your interest and support. And also remember, everybody, we need to keep supporting community and independent media, because this is the people's media, and this is where we get truth. And it's wonderful to be able to speak with you today and know that community media is thriving in WA, thriving.